Again, Happy New Year, greetings, and welcome to Conversations with Tony Mobley. On last week, we had theater professional and college professor Jessica Lopez Barkle. Today on Conversation with Tony Mobley, we have Mr. Kenn Jordan, who is a very good friend of the show. Today is January 14th, 2026. This is episode 2 of 2026 for Conversation with Tony Mobley. This conversation uses the TV broadcast software, Mimo Live, and also Zoom. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by Claudia Lopez Waterman. Our current team includes Laura Thompson, Zachary Sorensen, and Mickey McAture. And we also have additional support today by Tamara Pinka. We are thankful for all of you being here today. Conversation with Tony Mobley uses the Mukana chat, which is courtesy of Alex Lindsay and 090. This is a question system that allows you to ask your question, and your question can be voted up and down. I encourage you to use this platform. If you choose not to use this platform, then you can ask your questions in the YouTube chat. And we're just going to get right into it right now. And the very first question is, as always, who is Kenn Jordan?
Hi, Tony. I think this is now my sixth or seventh appearance on the show. I am what would I call it now? As a digital creator, I've been working online since online was a thing. And what I suppose, if I want to sum up what we do, is we make your online we help to make your online appearance more profitable. Really, that's what we do as a business. So I think that's probably the eighth or seventh different way I've said who I am on this show.
Please tell us the name of your business.
Um, Company's Elms Park. You can find us at elmspark.com, and that's the from that website is the best way to get in contact with us.
Absolutely. So the next question is, how has your family supported you on your journey?
Um, yeah, I suppose we're fortunate really in in that they've been very supportive. I had a very early age got a computer. It was a ZX81, and that was a computer with a membrane keyboard, um, and that's really what got me into using into computers. I'm a creative by training. That's what went to college to do graphic design. Um, at that time, it was all on drawing boards and rotary pens. But I always had an interest in computers, and I always wanted a way of maybe there's a quicker way of doing this if I can, you know, program this into a computer. So family was always very supportive, and yeah, I at a very early age was lucky enough to have a computer.
Do you think that the graphic background gives you an edge in terms of using computers now?
Um, that the edge that it gave me, because I very quickly, um, from the age of 19, 20, I was in the workplace. I worked, first job was at Arthur Anderson, running their computer graphics department. So my design skills and my computer knowledge meant was a very rare thing at that time. Doing graphics on computers which only had 320 by 204 colors was a very challenging thing. So yes, I suppose yes, my early love of computers and my graphic design training is what got me into this industry that I've been in since I started working, yeah, which is over 40 odd years ago. So yeah, the that combination was really what helped, because normally, when I was running design departments, you had the designers at one end, and then you had the tech computer guys at the other, and because I had a foot in both camps, it was very easy for me to get them, because I could talk the language of either side. It made the collaboration much easier, because I could talk to tech, manage a tech crew as well as manage graphic designers, because I was at a very early age had that skill set.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And we're going to get right into it. But before we do, I'm going to make another appeal to those who are watching on YouTube or conversationwithtonymobley.com website. Ask your questions. It is in the AM for Kenn, and we want to be very appreciative of his time. So please ask your questions. We will only be here for 1 hour. And so we're already into that hour. So ask your questions. The next question is, please talk about your passion for quality AI.
Yeah, I suppose I was at very early in when I suppose the term AI became more of a thing, and when I suppose it's really things like when ChatGPT really took off. But we've had machine learning for years. Spell checkers or autocorrection. These are all machine learning. Um, so the term AI, or artificial intelligence, or machine learning, to me it blurs together. It isn't, they're but yeah, I'm always look at new innovations and new things, and I suppose I'm always a very early adopter on that bleeding edge, because I suppose it's part of my job to look at what are new trends coming and how you can manage those going forward, and what you need to focus on as a business so that you don't get left behind. For us as a company, using AI has been transformational. The improvement in quality and the speed and the quality of the quality that we do is has been improved because of the quality of the tool. The tool just got better and better, and because we embrace it and see what it can do, and it's not. It is just another. It's a it is just another tool. It's a super, it's a great tool, but that does have challenges, but it still requires a skill level and work inputting into it to get that quality out, especially in the early days. It's getting easier and easier now as the machine learning is getting better and better at understanding natural language and stuff, but it still requires that eye, that you know standards of quality is still needed, um, um, to utilize it.
I'm curious, if someone were to say, why should I reach out to Kenn Jordan in Elms Park for what I need done in AI as opposed to me trying to figure it out myself, and I know nothing about AI? Why would I want to check in with you?
That's a really good question. Because the landscape has changed. If you use AI correctly, a lot of the stuff that we were doing, AI can do it better. I'm quite happy to say that. Some of the web design now, the speed that we can produce websites now is a fraction of the time that it used to take, because the large language models are really good at producing quality websites. Now, how you host them and how you manage them is still an issue, but there's a application that I'm part of a behind the scenes team on. We very early got into the development of a program that's will be released sometime this year. It's kind of a rival to WordPress that really takes it to a next level. So, yes, a lot of the skills and services that we used to offer, we still do offer them. You can do with the right prompting and the right knowledge, do for yourself now. And we're part of our role is actually, which might sound counterintuitive, is actually training our some of our big clients in how to do a lot of the work that we used to do for them, so that they can get better at doing it themselves, and leaves us to focus on higher level things on how to improve their business and what other ways to go forward. But so the kind of what used to be almost donkey work, almost factory work of output, we can train you on how to do it. I'm hoping, I'm building the solution that automates a lot of probably 80, 90% of what we used to do, so that we can focus more on the more creative thinking stuff, rather than spending time building and developing content. I mean, a perfect example would be, for one client, they had a load of documentation that they wanted to turn into a very large form. We use Gravity Forms on WordPress, and so the benefit now with the large language, we could input that content. We already trained it how to make a perfect Gravity form using and outputting the JSON file. So rather than it taking days for us to generate this great form, because we know how to do it. We've trained our AI model, when it can then just spit out this JSON file, and what would normally have taken multiple hours is now done literally in seconds.
I want to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you for a quick second, because I was looking for a particular answer and you didn't give it to me. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you the answer that I was looking for. So what I wanted to say was, the reason I asked the question in the way that I asked it was because I really wanted you to talk about the fact that, because of your background, because of the things that you know in terms of graphic design, because of your early experience with AI, that you are in fact an expert. And because you are an expert, you bring a breadth to the AI solution that a regular person would miss. And I say that because I know that for a fact that when you are being in a creative mode, that everything that you do is high quality. And so that you are not just drawing on the fact that the AI can do it better, faster. You're drawing on the experience that you have. And because of the experiences you have, because you've been doing the work, that makes you better at being able to provide service to someone. That's what I was looking for. But
Okay.
maybe you were being modest. But I think that it's the same conversation that we've had in the past. Not you and I, but people in technology in general. So AI is able to create code, right? AI is able to create code, and if you don't know any code, AI can still create the code, right? But
Yes.
if
I
there's an
suppose.
error, if there's an error in the code and
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know coding, it's a problem. And I look at that you as a person who can see when there's an error, or like we like to say hallucination with the AI, that you are able to see it and fix it.
Yeah, I suppose that's I suppose the the shortcut that AI or machine learning can give you is if you already know that field, if you're an expert in that area, this can using these tools can massively generate and speed up your workflow. If you're totally new to the area, it can't yet give you that shortcut. For example, you want to create an app, but you've got no coding experience. To kind of jump in and and trying to get these machine learning large language models to produce you that app without any kind of background or skill or knowledge, that's a much bigger leap. But the area of what you need to do first, AI can help teach you what's about, what an app should be, can teach you how to code, teach you the fundamentals of coding, and that's, you can't, jump that, expect to, go from, no knowledge or understanding at all to being an expert in there. Because you think, oh well, I can just type this in and AI will spit that out. You, but and that's where the kind of those issues or problems or the kind of the hallucinations or AI slop kind of comes about is by trying to take a shortcut to it. But what AI can definitely do is help you to firm out that idea, to get it to question you back on what is it that you want to produce, and helping you to create a schedule to question you back. That one of the biggest kind of prompt things that we learned early on was asking it to give you a no holds barred review of something that you've written or created or sort of done, and getting that feedback, using it as a feedback tool to help better your understanding and better your knowledge or better your training. And that's where it you can get it to produce a tailored a tailored learning model for you. And that's really the biggest benefit of it. It's like having a one-to-one tutor that is 100% focused on what you're in helping you to learn something, or to you've got a there's a massive kind of documentation you've got to read, helping you to kind of summarize it, and or to quiz you on it, to quiz your learning. It's a great tool for that. And that's where we have seen the biggest improvements on we can help train you to use the AI model to help you do better in whatever role you're in, because we've worked with it for so long and understand it and know how to help to prompt it to teach, so that you can turn this thing from, rather than just producing the well, I suppose what the the lazy term out there is AI slop.
Right.
And
And I think we're going to get more into
mm,
to this whole idea of AI slop and low quality AI production. But we want to honor Laura Thompson in giving us a question for you. How do you see AI websites being created with accessibility in mind? Is it being done correctly?
it is it. we adding the accessibility layer to websites, and I have to thank Laura. We were doing that. We thought reasonably well. When you have someone who has to use those tools and see how they use them, that was the best kind of training that we've had, and be able to make better improvements. Yes, AI can make beautifully accessible websites much easier, much faster than the time, because it does take, you have to put a bit more effort into it. It's not just from, it makes your website better, not just from an accessibility point of view, but from everyone's point of view. And AI can produce that. It is it takes some training. It doesn't take that much because it has a great design knowledge, but because 90 odd percent of websites out there aren't designed for accessibility in mind, and its learning model that it will produce, if you just ask it a very basic thing, it would spit out something, but that's not, might be the best for accessibility point of view. To be honest, it is getting that much better. We can, you don't, the level of prompting you need to produce a website that works, you know, for everybody, is far, far less now, because a lot of the training models on there do follow that, so that the colors are the right contrast, so that, it works in that way. But there is still that extra, I suppose, because of the experience in knowing how to build really accessible websites. That's where I can then, tweak it and prompt it to make sure that those things are part of the prompt, so that it can produce those. But yes, for us, it's made it far simpler and easier to produce, beautiful and accessible websites.
Now I'm going to push you just a little bit, and so what I'm hearing you say is that you are extremely sensitive to this component of accessibility as far as websites are concerned using AI. Do you think that it is because you are who you are and because you are sensitive to it? Would you say that it's wide place in terms of other people who are in the AI website development space?
Well, there are a lot of people in the website development space who aren't very good at developing websites. That's always been the case. That's why we get so much work, because the majority, as I said, 90 odd percent of websites out there are rubbish. So, it's and or they're not, or they're, the design or development is lazy, but then that's down to the human. There are a lot of good people out there who understand accessibility, understand what is good, user interfaces, and can build those. The benefit now is that we can build those a lot faster and a lot easier, so that our work can be seen by more people. So yeah, there are bad design, bad web design, and bad developers. And when they use AI, they produce bad websites. Luckily, it's a slightly better than they used to produce, because the AI engines can produce good quality, good code. But if you're not looking for that, or if your standards are low, AI is just going to amplify. Those are going to be just amplified, I'm afraid. So, it doesn't. AI isn't an arbiter of taste. That's still a human value, and you still have to have that. You still have to. If you don't have standards, then you're not going to care if what gets produced is of a low standard, because you didn't have standards to begin with. It's not AI's fault. But if you do have standards and you do follow those things, then with AI you can produce your work, you know, faster and better. So it isn't. And back to your question, yes, AI can make 100% accessible websites. The reason we might not be seeing them isn't AI's fault. It's down to people who had low standards to begin with and didn't care. You know, those are people who are still out there. The unfortunate thing is now AI can produce, they can use AI and produce the shell of something good, but because they don't have those standards or that eye for detail, you know, that those things get missed because it's easy to produce. All you have to say is, you know, I want my website to be accessible, and AI will produce it for you. But if you don't think about those terms to begin with, then you know it's not necessarily that it won't, because eventually it will, because it will be that those standards, that quality work, those quality standards that we make sure that the quality of what we do is in what we output. You know, those are better learning models because they produce websites that, you know, have a higher ROI or have a higher usage or more people enjoy to use. And, you know, it's like, you know, the kind of, you know, the search term, you're looking for something, they want to provide you with what you're looking for, because then, oh great, then you'll go and use that again, rather than, you know, you know, just well, you know, here's someone who paid for it. So
And can you share with our audience ROI?
ROI is a return on investment. Um, the by you know it's the return on investment is so that what you know you what you put in, you know, the time you put in, you get that back, you know, and there are those, you know, it's because yes, if you had good quality standards to begin with, and you understand that by producing it in this way, producing of that quality, you're going to get a better return on that investment. So you take that time and effort to do that. AI has allowed us to do that much quicker, to spend, you know, it's less time to be able to do that. But if you didn't have those, you know, if you didn't have that taste, if you didn't have that eye to detail, if you didn't care, then
That goes back to the whole
yeah.
idea of an expert like yourself. We have another question: is what are the three best AI applications or apps for regular or beginner users?
It all depends on what is it that you want to do. You know, if you know you it's you you know it really is a the question really I would fire back to is what is it that you want to do? Because there aren't, you know, regular. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own needs. Um, you know, so you
Let's
know,
focus on beginners. Let's focus on beginners.
okay, but you're a beginner, but you still have a, you know, what is it that you're trying to produce? You know that, and at a basic level, all of them are you know, with the right prompting can help you. You know that we use, well, for us, okay, we're not beginners, but you know prefer to use Claude for doing code. We use ChatGPT for we use Claude also for creative writing, but ChatGPT 5.2 is great at doing that. Any of these languages, Gemini is great for images, but you can do this. You know, it's all of them are good if you but you still need to have a task. You know, that's really what I would do. It's not, you know, when we help train people to, you know, use these large language models to help them. The first thing is, what is, if you have a real example of what you do, then we can help you to, you know, to you to get the most from them. But simple things like, if you're having to write, if you're not good at writing or responding to emails, or writing a professional email because it's very important, that you want to impress someone with, then AI can help you with that. But again, it's all about what is it that you want to do, because they all are good, with that level of prompting. I mean, when we get to our level, then yes, there are nuances of each, and that's why we use so many different models. But at a beginner stage, it is almost, what is it that you do? What is it that need help in? And any of these models can do that if you ask them that. You think of it as a system that you can go back and forth with, and because you don't expect it from the first prompt that you put in. Get it to question you on what is it that you want to do. That's a great way of actually using the tool. The first thing is to ask you, what can I help you with? Because it will help you think about, okay, yes, well, because it will question you on what is it that you want to produce. And if you use it as that tool, you'll get much more from it, because it will help to clarify your thinking. And because we all just start from somewhere, I suppose it's not, it's not really the beginner thing. It's about having an idea of what you want to do. And if you don't know what that is, use the models to help you refine an idea or to think up ways of what to do.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the AI applications are free at the beginning level.
Mm-hmm.
I have $20 a month that I can pay for one app. What is the app?
Again, Tony, what is it that you're looking to
So
do from it?
I'm a generalist. Maybe I want some help with writing a paper. Maybe I want to create a few AI images. Maybe I want to generate text or video. I'm not. You said not use the regular person, but I'm an average person who can only afford, and we probably need to talk about AI and the digital divide too. But I only have $20 a month that I can spend on a higher level of AI application.
Right. Okay. Well, I would, before you think you need to spend that $20, the free version of Gemini or ChatGPT, I would leave Claude out of this because it doesn't, in terms of it doesn't do the image kind of image generation. But Claude and ChatGPT, sorry, Gemini and ChatGPT can do image generation. So it would be one of those two models. But before spending that $20 or needing to spend that $20, I would challenge you that it wouldn't, you wouldn't be, until you have a project or something you want to produce at a higher level, would you then need to invest that $20 in there? Until you can come up with, okay, Ken,
A use
I don't,
case.
I can't come up with a defined use case, and AI will,
Yes.
the large language can help you to define that, because I would first get it to help you to define that, and then you'd have a better idea of, okay, I've now reached the limits of what the free stuff can give is giving me, and I now need to invest that $20 in this particular one because I've I've used, the free models are more than adequate enough to get you to that level where actually, yes, okay, I now need to spend some money to get to use these at a higher level, because the 90% of what you need to do can be done with the free tier. It isn't there isn't a need to spend that unless you have pushed the limits of those free models. And the thing is, those free model tiers are just getting better and better each time. I might not have said that 6 months ago, when they're first out, but now, those high end models of 6 months ago are now free. They're so it's a constantly rising level on those. So I'd use Gemini and the free or use Gemini. Gemini actually from a cost perspective has quite a high barrier before you need to start paying for it, before you start seeing its limits and then needing to pay. So I would, my thing is not, this thing is a great tool, but unless you have that idea or that have a more focused output that you want, I wouldn't say, well, yes, you know, you know, subscribe to Gemini or ChatGPT. It would be one of those two, to be honest. But there are other free models out there. Even on the image side, there are the free tiers are quite generous, and the a lot of the what's called our slop content out there is done at the free tiers. They're not, they're people aren't paying for this. That's why you see some of the poorer quality output is because they don't want to pay for it, because they don't have quality standards and using the free tiers. And that's why you see some of the poor quality outputs that are out there. But until Tony, my pushback to you is until you have a defined idea or project, I wouldn't spend $20 yet until because I would question whether you've pushed those free tiers to their limit that you then need to start having to pay for it, and that would go for the majority of people, unless you're as I said, I've been doing this field for ages, so I'm an expert, I suppose, in this field. That's why we need to pay, or we pay quite a lot for our large language models because we push those to the limit. Most people don't. Most people haven't yet, because in general, if it's pure generalization stuff, free tiers are more than good enough. A lot of people are signing up and paying this money, and they're not pushing those large language models at all. It's only when you've got something. I've got a deadline, I've got to make something here, or I want to push it further or harder, would I then say, okay, yeah, I would now recommend that you use the paid tier for this. So that's my pushback to you: is come with a more defined
specific need
problem. Yes.
So Rabbi David Paskin has asked a question, or well, maybe, yeah, it's, I guess, really a comment. I believe I built a guitar tuner app for my phone from my phone this afternoon in 29 minutes with an AI coding tool. Unbelievable.
Well, see, here's the thing. I know David plays the guitar, and that's a very specific need. So he knows what to look for in that. It's not if he was a not a non-musician and did that, that would be something. But because he plays the guitar, so he knows he knows guitar tuning needs to be done and seen other apps, so he knew what to ask, knew what to get from it, and that's where, yes, that's where it then, it can do that. That's not surprising to me because he already has that understanding and knowledge from the, and then just using AI, he realized, wow, I can build my own and specific just for his needs. But again, he can play the guitar. He knows about, guitar tuning. So that's why he's able to produce something, I'm sure great quality app because he has that understand or very defined task also in an area that he knows. So that's where you really see these large language models shine.
Again, the idea that a person is an expert on something and then they are able to embrace the technology to make sure that it provides at a high level what they
Yes.
are desiring.
But if you don't have that, if you really don't know or don't have that, what it can do, it can help pull that out from you by you getting it to ask you questions, to question me on, and you will then learn, it can help pull out from you something that, great, that's, you might have had just something deep in the back of your mind that you, but you can, using AI to help pull that out from you so that you can get to something, to then get it to produce something that's tailored exactly for your needs. But it can help you find those needs or work out what a good need is.
Laura Thompson asks, what are your thoughts on tools that give you access to many models for a lower price, like T3.chat?
Yeah, we don't use those because they are if you're new to it and you want to try out different models or your use case in those models is um, is relatively low, then those are a very cheap way of getting into it. Almost like that might be a good place to start. If you wanted to spend on it, then those are a much cheaper way to give you access to all those models at a very low tier. For us, we're on the high end tiers of most of these models, and T3 just won't do it. So we go direct to source, and we do spend a lot, but we get a lot from that. But yeah, if you're generalizing in each, then T3 is a good way to kind of a cheap way to kind of dip your toe in the waters of all of those. But if you want to if you find that task and the specializing, you've got that need in a specific area, then you'll soon hit the barriers of those of the models like T3, and then I would recommend, you would use, you know, large language model A because that's best at doing that task, and investing a bit extra in that to get the best from it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hearing you say that it's a good introduction
It's a
AI
good
tool.
introduction, yes, if you're not sure which one, and or you're not a heavy user. If you're an extremely heavy user in any particular models, then you soon hit the limits of what that can do because it's an aggregator basically. So they need to yeah, has to make money in some way. So it knowing that the majority of the time people paying for a model and they're hardly using it. They're hardly scratching the surface of it. They're not using it enough to warrant paying $20 a month for it, because they're not hitting those limits. So T3 is a much more cost-effective way of doing it if you're not a heavy user. If you don't use it all day, every day, and really pushing its limits, if you don't reach those limits, it's not worth paying, that $20 a month in something like T3. Or I said, use the free tiers, and if most of those can get you the majority of the way until you again. I just come back to the same point.
Hit the wall.
Until you have a more crystallized thing of what you want to produce, can I then recommend, yes, you use this model or that model? If you're just
and I'm going to confess that I'm guilty. I'm guilty because and I'll be transparent. And I'm paying for Chat GPT. I'm paying the $20 a month, but I was looking at it from the standpoint of I had access to Sora. I was able to use Sora. I was able to use Chat GPT. There are other AI apps that are included in Sora. I'm sorry, included in ChatGPT, and so, but I'm not using it every day. I am using it probably in 7 days. I'm probably using it 4.
Yeah, it would be. So I would, yes, it would be. There are. I would look at Gemini. I said it has a much higher limit. Well, it's a bit difficult for me because I need to go back because, as I said, we're on premium tiers on almost every large language model out there. So it's difficult to go back to, well, what the free models are. But yeah, unless you're using it every day and hitting the limits, it might not be, you might see, well, you don't actually need to. And the thing is, it's not like it doesn't matter if you don't pay for 1 month, and only need to pay for it if you really need it. So I would look at, not having that as subscription. You turn it off and you turn it on, use the free tier until you hit its limit, then pay for it. Then you've got a month worth of it, but then, only pay for it a month at a time. With any of these models, I wouldn't, invest in a yearly. Pay for a yearly. Pay if you are going to pay for it, just pay for it for a shorter period as possible, until you hit that limit, and then all have a real project to work on. As I said, we spend a lot of money on them, but we get 10, 20, 50x return back on because of this,
Because it's your business.
Yes, it's a small business expense, for what we pay for these highest tiers to what we get paid from it. It's a no-brainer to do that. But it's only unless you're being paid. I wouldn't pay them for it. Utilize the free tiers that are out there that they have, and give until you have a need to pay for something.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to say, Laura, yeah, Laura brought a question back. T3 is doing everything I need right now. I never get close to my limits, but am I getting the same output as the source model?
It very much depends on what your prompt is. No, you're not on the thinking tier because they use more compute, and you're on the lower tier on that. But that's, so for most, is good enough. But if you're, as I said, working in a field that and you start hitting those limits where actually that doesn't look right, or that's not that great an answer, you can only judge on what is that because you know that field. Then that's where I'd say yes. That's because you're not in those thinking models. I've seen examples where people, so-called experts, or they've written a book about it and show, oh, look how this thing, and look at it's produced this, AI slop content. Look at the quality of this that they've done. It's because they're not using the thinking model, or they paid the tier to go up to that. It's easy to get it to produce something that's meh, But if your needs aren't that big, then, as I said, those lower tiers used to be the premium tiers a few months ago. Those were the tiers who I was paying big bucks for months ago. Those are now, lower tiers. Those models. So they're getting better and better and better. And for some, they will never hit those limits because of the competition between them. This is really a great boon for the users, is that those free or lower tiers are just improving all the time because they're making the models better and better. And it's only when you need to use the higher models, that you get to see the difference in even what the thinking version. That's basically, when they say thinking, it's just using more compute, because all it's doing, when you see the turn on its questioning, it questions itself. It produces an answer and then puts that answer back in itself to say, is this good? And it keeps doing that and iterating. And that's what uses a lot of compute. And that's what the more premium models coming give you, is it questions itself before giving you that answer. And that's what it's thinking about. You see it writes out a premise, questions the premise, produces an answer, questions the answer before then giving the output. That's what you're paying for in the higher levels. But if your prompt isn't that
Well, that's the
advanced,
very
then you need.
that's the very next question. The next question is, what are the best ways for quality prompting development?
The best ways of getting better prompting is by, I said, my favorite line we use is, you say, give me a no holds barred review on whatever it is, your prompt. So you write a prompt and get it to give you, as I said, no holds barred review on this, and it will do that. Um, and that's how you turn it into a thinking model. So even though you're on a free tier, by asking those questions or getting it you know, to question what you've put in, that's how you get to produce a better prompt, by writing out a prompt and asking it, please review this, no hold barred review on this prompt. How would you improve this prompt? And if you aren't getting it to ask a question back and forth, then you're not trying hard enough. You haven't written it good enough, because it's never on the first try. The work that we put into producing something, if you see the workings, it's pages and pages long of back and forth, or questioning it with another model, and questioning that output back to another model and another model. We use all of them to question back and forth when you really want to go deep into it. It's getting it to question itself. That's how you produce. You getting that better output rather than general a general output.
Wow. So I'm going to go back a little bit to me and my, and we're running out of time, but I just want to get
Mm.
this in. So I I'm using the paid version of ChatGPT, but I really like 5.2. Um, do I have access to that if it's free?
Yeah, 5.2 is if you, I don't know the as I said it's difficult for me because I'm not on the free tier, but the paid tier is 5.2 is on there. It is a yeah, it's a great model. You know you know we've seen the differences in the quality of the output that 5.2 gives you to previous models, but again, you know we see the benefit of that because as I said it's we're using it all the time and people paying us a pretty penny to get the best outputs from the systems and
Okay.
so unless you're I would question well why you know what do you need from 5.2 that you're not getting from the lower tiered or cheaper models. You know, unless it's for something that you're making and you're seeing that this isn't giving me those results, would you need to go to 5.2? Because as I said, you know, the
So
base
this
model
is my
that's there now was premium a month ago, if not that.
so the fantastic animated Tony Mobley and Liberty White that you created. Would it be possible to create them in a free? I know it was multiple AI apps, but would it be possible to do it with the free tiers of those apps?
There are free tiers of lots of other apps that are out there. There are a lot of the video creation tools, especially there's these Chinese models that are out there that are great. You know, and they're free or next to free almost. You know, they're very low priced in terms of producing that. But the work that was involved to produce that was in first because you know it was almost to do a class in it to show where I started from. I took transcripts from your previous shows. I went to Liberty's LinkedIn profile, pulled content from there, pulled transcripts from shows that she was on, and used that. You know, so I spent time and know. Okay, well, you know, to make
Okay.
these feel or sound more realistic. That wasn't down to AI. That was just down to okay, you know, it's I want quality content from those two subjects to make you know the what they're saying
Sound like
sound
them
like them.
and
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 so
look
to
like
do
them.
that, yes, and well, to look like them, that was easy enough. That was taking multiple screenshots of you and Liberty. So the more screenshots, different angles to get that model to look like you. So all of that down to the AI. That was down to that. That was work. You know, it took time and effort to produce that, and to produce you know that minute or so was was a fair amount of time and effort.
Okay.
That's what's required. That's the difference of what you know when you come to us to do something to just trying it yourself. That's what you know. That's why those outputs looked and worked that well, is because we input a ton of data into the model, and then it can produce that. So now that might sound well. That's a lot of time and effort and work. But yeah, without that model, you know, trying to you know getting a an animator to make that model that would have taken months or weeks. You know, that would have been
Yeah.
you know outside of the scope of doing that in the past before we had you know these great models. But it doesn't it didn't negate the work of going to LinkedIn, copying her LinkedIn profile, go finding your YouTube videos, getting the transcripts and pouring those into those models to produce that output. That wasn't down to AI. That's down to I knowing that the more
That's
quality
down
that
to
I can
Kenn
put into
Jordan.
it, the more
Yeah.
quality you put into it, the more you're doing that. But that can be learnt. That what I could have done, how I did it, you anyone could have done that by just knowing, oh, that's what Ken did, and then you can go off and do that, or get the AI models to do that. So that's all. That's what it comes down to. It is a, and the AI models can teach you about that, how to best make this model, rather than just throwing it, is doing that back and forth, spending that time with the model and getting it to, because it would tell you that. Go to, it would, those are things that you can learn from the AI models on the workload that's needed to produce something of quality. If you ask it, I want to produce something really, really good quality, where should I begin? That's the kind of questions you need to be asking to get really good output from these models.
Okay.
And what I've learned over the years, that can be, I'm producing it. I want to produce a model that replicates me by me pouring my knowledge into it and then getting it to do that. And that's we're almost there now. For well, some of our work, we are there. You know, search engine optimization. I wouldn't get anyone to have to pay for us to do that anymore. We would show you how you can do that yourself and better. Those there are lots of areas where this can be done. You just need to be just guided in that direction of what to ask, what to do, and then you can get these models to do it for you.
So we're out of time. We're actually out of time, and I don't even know if my team will allow me to ask the last two questions. No, they're not. They're going to make me
Yeah,
ask the last question.
you can go back and look at previous shows and to see my other answers, because yeah, they're
Yeah.
relevant.
So you're speaking to the world. What do you want the world to know?
Okay. AI is a mirror of who we are. And so what we see output there is a mirror of, what's done is, and that's, so look at it yourself. Think about what you do, how you can improve, and then that's how you can get better outputs from these models.
Thank you, Kenn Jordan, again for being with me today on Conversations with Tony Mobley. I really appreciate you. Thank you again. Um, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you did yourself a disservice by not asking a question. But we just want to let you know that you can reach out to Kenn Jordan at Elms Park, and say that one more time because I don't know the ending of it. Is it
Yeah,
UK or?
that's elmspark.com. Almost we own almost every Elms Park, but elmspark.com is the best way to kind of contact me if you want to hire us to to improve your online presence.
You heard it first here. Thank you again, Kenn Jordan. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by Claude Lopez Waterman. Our current team is Laura Thompson, Zachary Sorensen, Mickey Magature. And thank you, sir. Thank you, team. Thank you, Tamra Pika, also for your help tonight. Thank you, Mimo Live. Thank you, Zoom. Stay tuned for new episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley, real conversations with real people. And we have 4 years of Conversation with Tony Mobley. So we ask that you go back and look at those conversations, and we hope that there will be something that is helpful to you. Thank you again, Ken Jordan. Thank you for being a part of our conversation today and for doing the work you do and for being the person who you are. Next week, Roz McNulty, digital magician and fashion futurist. Please feel free to support Conversation with Tony Mobley by volunteering or donating to keep Conversation with Tony Mobley running. We can use your donations, and you can do that on our website. We ask that you please like and subscribe on YouTube, and also comment. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. We'd like to hear from you. And we're just going to say we really want to continue to do Conversation with Tony Mobley, and we want to get better. So we thank you for being a part of this conversation today. We're going to say good night. God bless you. Take care. See you soon.